going to discuss Peacemaker. Peacemaker is the HBO Max series that just dropped yesterday. 3 episodes, which we said is pretty good. Dropped nice, good 3 episodes. You know what I mean? I very
Mm-hmm.
much appreciated that. You know, you get a good sense of feeling of what the show is all about, what the show's doing, the premise of the show, where the show's going. What I mean, and I like that. I like that quite a bit. John Cena, who's turned into this big comedic talent. I mean, you know, obviously he's already a big motherfucker already.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but obviously he's also this really good comedic talent. We saw it in Trainwreck. He was also in the movie called Blockers. Vacation Friends, which I didn't see, but Nick saw. It was one of his biggest surprises of 2021 on our list there, and he said very good. He enjoyed it quite a bit. So yeah, yeah. I mean, he's turned into a great comedic talent, and in this and watching the Suicide Squad, which we first saw his character in, which I was a big fan of that movie. It was one of my favorite movies of 2021. And the humor in it works really well. James Gunn, I mean, it's he was allowed to basically just kind of let loose and do the humor that he's done. You know what I mean? If you've seen his other stuff, you know what I mean, like Slither or Super, it's pretty much is right along those lines there of stuff he's done before, humor wise. And here, it pretty much is what that character was in the in a little bit in the
Yeah.
Suicide Squad, just a little bit kind of toned down a
Tweaked.
little bit, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
actually, now that he's the protagonist of his own show, you know what I mean? You have to kind of make him a little bit more heroic, you know what I mean? I mean, he's still dumb as hell in a way, and
Yeah.
but in a very funny way. And the humor in this, I think, works a lot. Like I said, John
Mm.
Cena is great in this role. And the violence matches, the comedy really matches, as well as the violence in this, the gore. I mean they're not afraid to definitely show some bloodiness in this at all, and as well as nudity. I mean, you'll get that as well in this. So
Mhm.
I mean, they'll show it full on, no problem. Yeah, and I'll say right off the bat, I really enjoyed this. I mean, it's my type of superhero thing. It's my type of, you know what I mean. It's definitely a departure. If you're feeling like a little superhero burnt out, it's like I can't deal with all this superhero shit, and it's all the same. If you're a person who feels like that,
Mhm.
then I think this is a different change of pace for you. Much like The Boys, much like Invincible,
Mhm.
or something like that. It very, very much is. It'd be a different kind of change of pace. What did you kind of did you feel about this?
Um, you mentioned The Boys and Invincible, which I think is interesting because while I was watching this, I didn't get that. I got okay. I think a lot of people will mention this as this, but there's a difference. Uh, Garth Edwards isn't a part of all this, which means it's not horribly awfully cynical. Like it doesn't hate you for liking comics or hate you for liking what you like. It's just dealing with the character in a situation that the title of the character is ironic. And that kind of works in an interesting way. Usually wouldn't, but it works. John Cena, he's very much his character, and I do like that the consequences from the Suicide Squad actually follows into the show.
Mm,
He does actually feel bad about some of the things he's had to do. He does actually is questioning himself on some of those actions. But in a weird way, he's kind of been trained by birth to have this just insurmountable bravado that he doesn't want to show it, but he's but there is a while I'm laughing, I'm also like really sad, sad while watching him because it's almost pathetic. Like
mm,
he's this guy who could kill everyone in the room that's talking shit to him, but he doesn't. And it doesn't really occur to him because that's just not his interest to do so. So
mm,
he just kind of takes a lot of crap. And he says things that are really rude or awful, but then when you explain it to him, he's like, "No, that's not what I meant at all. Like that's totally rude. Why would I say that?" And you're like, "But you just said that." Well, but that's not what I meant. And you're like, "But you said it." Well, it's not what I meant. God, get off me already. And
yeah.
it's just like, oh my God. Everyone's a jerk in this series. Everyone. Everyone's either a sociopath, a psychopath, or very like sad and depressed, and yet everything is at 11.
Mm,
Everything is pushed to 11. And somehow if it was with any other guy, anyone else but Shane Black, this would fall apart immediately. But somehow, the Mad Lad finds just a little bit of moments where he can be genuinely funny or genuine little human moments that keep me from normally where I'd be like, this isn't really that interesting. And then I'll have a little kernel moment where I'm like, okay, I'll watch a little bit longer. And then by the time that's in the episode's over, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna see the next episode. Let's keep going.
Mm,
And then episode two, like, okay, all right, I'm in it.
yeah.
I almost the first episode's a slow burn. I'll say that. Bit of
Mm,
a slow burn. It doesn't really start off great, but then about halfway in, you're like, okay, all right, and then it ends like in a really funny way, and you're like, okay.
mm,
And ever
yeah.
since that, by the end of episode three, I'm like, okay, I'm sold. I'm
Yeah.
gonna see where this goes.
Yeah, like you mentioned, so if you watch Suicide Squad, it follows the plot line, as far as the storyline of his character from that movie into this. Because if you know the Suicide Squad, so it was all about, what I mean, basically giving criminals, planting bombs in their necks and giving them a mission to do on the bidding of Amanda Waller and the government. And here, so it's still, at the end of that movie, spoiler alert if you haven't seen The Suicide Squad, which is also on HBO Max, you can watch it right now. So at his character got shot, whole building fell on top of him. But somehow he survived. You know what I mean? Somehow he lived through that. Luckiest man in the world, as the doctor says at the beginning of the series. And he's still working for the government because he still got the bomb planted in his neck. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, well, we're not gonna send you back to prison, but you're still gonna do missions for us, killing people because that's what you do well. Because he's an expert on every single weapon imaginable in human society and can kill people with anything. So it's like, okay, you got a great set of skills, so we're gonna use you. And he's working with the team that was also kind of appeared in the first movie as well, with an added new addition of actress Daniel Brooks, who was in Orange Is the New Black. Daniela Brooks, she was in Orange Is the New Black.
So that's where I seen her before.
Y-
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I didn't know that.
So you have kind of returning characters from the Suicide Squad who was a part of that team with Amanda Waller working with the Suicide Squad there, like the actress Jennifer Holland, Steve Agee, who's here as well. Like I remember those two
Mhm.
characters who were on the squad as well, working. Guy on the computer working with there. You also have you mentioned his father, who's Robert Patrick. Who's a complete, just basically he's a white supremacist. I mean, basically,
Yeah, basically.
yeah. Who's his father? So it's like when you see his father, it's like, well, of course, you know what I mean. It's like, well, this is of course how you turned out. I mean, look how you were raised. I mean, you actually, it's a miracle you're even as maybe good as you are.
Decent. Yeah, as
Yeah,
decent-esque of a human being as you are.
yeah. I mean, it's almost kind of a miracle, almost honestly. Who's a great performance from Robert Patrick, actually. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Really good from him. Everybody does like a good job. Like I said, everybody is pretty much psychotic. I mean, because even people who, because they're working on this job, getting this whole working with Peacemaker, because they say it's basically punishment for what they did to her, Amanda Waller in the Suicide Squad movie. And like I said, I mean, they've been doing this job for a long time, so they kind of don't have any emotion behind just killing people because they see it as like, well, hey, it's for the greater good. I mean, that's what we do. You know what I mean? They say we need to kill this person. We need to kill this person. It must be for a good reason, so why question it? So they kind of just don't have any feelings too much about it. And Danielle Brooks, she's the only one who is the newcomer who's kind of like, yeah, I don't really know about all this. I mean, like, why do we have to
Yeah.
do this? And she kind of is more the audience kind of avatar character of kind of going like, this situation's kind of fucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean, of how really fucked up things are. But everyone works, like I said, really well together. The action in the show works very well too. I mean, there's a lot of really great action set pieces in here. And I think when it's all of them kind of interacting, very funny. They all bounce off each other really well. The chemistry works very, very well, which I think is very much appreciated. And even there's a character called Vigilante, um,
Yeah.
who's like Peacemaker's like super fan. You know what I mean? Like calls
Super
himself.
friend, so-called BFF. He considers him his idol. Like Vigilante considers Peacemaker his idol.
Yeah, you know what I mean, and just like actually, probably loves the guy.
Yeah, legitimately does.
Yeah, and I thought he was really great, and I thought their
Oh
moments were
yeah,
also really good.
he's also the most sociopathic out of all of them.
You think so?
Yeah, there's interesting. It's this also another thing I think it's an interesting theme on this that I think works and wouldn't if it didn't have this tone. There's an irony to everything, and Shane Black really is good at that. At kind of having almost a good satire about things, and he does not think things through. Like he has a this is has to be this, so it has to be this. So I have no qualms about doing these things. And it's like he doesn't think that part through. There's a lot of ignorance on Peacemaker when he makes a pledge like, "Oh, I will do whatever it takes in order to do this." I'm like, you didn't really think that through when you said that. I was like, or another character in the team. I'm gonna do this with this. I didn't think she really thought that through, and now she's kind of stuck in this. And these characters are all kind of on these weird different paths on just being oblivious to the consequences of saying things. And Vigilante has a great moment where Peacemaker, for various reasons, can't do a certain thing, and Vigilante just says, "Hey, buddy, hold on, let me tap you out for a second," and it just goes humming to himself as he does something very horrible, and just doesn't really think much of it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's definitely just ready to do everything. I mean, he's much like kind of Peacemaker in the way that he's like, I follow the rules. If people, get out of line, I fix it. You know what I mean? He's very kind of much
Yeah,
like that type of
but he
hero.
has no discretion. He listed various things that he's done. Like, oh, I've shot this person. Did this for like who's a meth head, and you're like, well, that person's just like an addict. They had nothing to do. Oh, too late. Too late. You're a bad guy. You're technically a bad guy because you didn't follow the rule. And I'm like, all right, man. There's no gray. It's either you follow the rules or you didn't. Very Judge Dredd esque.
Yeah, very very much so. Yeah, but yeah, his character was really funny, and yeah, I think it's and I think you'll know this show is for you if you watch the intro to
Hmm.
the show, and if that
Oh
turns
yeah,
you on and off, it's like then that's already kind of how you know the show is for you or not.
yeah.
Because yeah, I mean it's cock rock, it's a lot of that type of stuff, and it's a whole dance sequence they do as intro, which I think is awesome.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's like superhero shows they don't have, or just shows in general don't have intros anymore. You know what I mean? They don't do
Yeah.
real intros anymore. And this one does a whole dance sequence at the beginning and everything like that, which I
Even
thought,
ends with Eagle. Even ends with Eagly, the eagle.
yeah, who's his sidekick, Peacemaker sidekick, Eagly, his best friend sidekick. You know what I mean? Like he's Harvey Birdman or something like that. Um,
He gives him a hug.
yeah, yeah,
The
gives him a
damn eagle gives him a hug. I don't think I've laughed harder than anything. He's giving me a hug.
I and I think John Cena is the lead of this. I mean, he's perfect. I mean, he works really
Yeah.
well. He hits the timing really well and is very very good. And I think that's what also sells the series very very well. Because when they announced they were doing a Peacemaker series, I was like, oh really? Okay. I mean, we'll see how that turns out. Can he sustain doing his own show? Can it work? And I think it does. You know what I mean? This is going to
Mhm.
be only 8 episodes, but yeah, I'm very, very much interested to, kind of see where the show kind of is going to go. I'm into it very much. And I think I mean, even if they did maybe one episode, if they only gave people, they only just dropped one episode, I still would have been into it because I think it's such a funny show. In the stuff they do, even the first episode where he's in the hospital and then he's like, okay, I got to tell somebody something. He tells just the janitor, you know what I mean, who smoked weed with him. And then I thought that whole interaction was really funny. That was pretty good. So yeah, I enjoyed the series a lot, man. I'd give it a high tune in. I think it works on a lot of levels. The cast is great. The violence is there. Not to say like you need violence to be an adult show or anything like that, but it's
No.
what you can expect from a character Peacemaker, which you
Right.
saw him do in the Suicide Squad. So they don't tone that down.
If anything, they turn it up.
Yeah, yeah, they turned it up here. So yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot, man. Were there any downsides for you at all?
Um, some of the some humor works, some does not. It gets kind of all right, okay, this is kind of annoying. So it depends on your type of humor. Some works for some people, some might work for other. I think structurally also, there are some tonal issues in this show sometimes where you're like, okay, it's really hard to be bouncing back and forth. Sometimes, a lot of times it works, but there are a few times where the tonal shifts aren't as appropriate. But it's gotten a bit better now that it's gotten to the third episode. In the very beginning, it's the first episode was probably the least balanced, but as it's gone on, it's gotten a bit better on what really this tone of the show is. Honestly, after the first episode, that intro makes a whole lot more sense when you just how insane everything kind of is. My favorite moment, without any spoilers for what's happening, there's a character in the third episode that another character is being tortured, and he says, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna break you," and he's hurting this other character. He's like, and the other character goes, "No, I will never stop. I will never give in." And he's the person that's torturing says, "I know how much this hurts you. We've watched and we know that human beings are empathetic to their fellow man, and this hurts them." And it's like the saddest thing at the same time. Like, yeah, you're right, but also this is the show, and no one's been a single bit empathetic throughout this entire show. You have the wrong cast. This is the wrong show, bud. Uh, go check out Young Justice. Like, maybe check that out, or the Justice League or some crap. Uh, but honestly, yeah, I think this is for those that really like this. I think everyone does a great job casting. I like the little moments that certain characters have. I like just the weird pulls from all the weird, like the C tier characters from DC that nobody knows about aside from hardcore comic people. How many people know about the Vigilante? How many even people knew about Peacemaker before the Suicide Squad?
Right.
I don't know any of that stuff.
Judo Master. Yeah.
Judo Master. Yeah, you're like, all right, we're just gonna throw a Judo Master in here. Sure, why not? Why the heck not? So I think that'll be a treat for those people who really who are like, oh man, these are characters that I never thought be on anything outside of something really hardcore. I think that's a nice treat for them, and yeah, I think overall, I've had fun. I had fun watching this. It was a little bit of a little bit of a slow start for me. I wasn't getting into it, but by the end of that first episode, I've been on with it since. I've been understanding its tone a bit more after that. But so yeah, I have to give this like a solid tune in. This is a solid time. I'm going to enjoy the next couple episodes. I can't wait till they're coming out. I'm looking forward to it because I'm curious to see where this is going to go. And I've actually enjoyed this a little bit more than I did The Boys.
Wow.
The Boys, for me, unfortunately, similar to Preacher with Garth Edwards, is a very great satire, but it's very clear to me that he hates the medium in which he's talking. And it's very clear to me that Shane does not. And it completely shows in the tone.
Shane.
He's being Shane Black.
James
Whatever.
Gunn.
Sorry. James Gunn. Damn. Sorry. My bad. James Gunn. Yeah, you're right. Slither and all that. He clearly has a love for this kind of stuff. And you can tell. The producers, everybody is really liking it. The Boys is a satire, but it's much more of like a depressing satire. And I'm not really, it's just like, okay, cool. I can't even have superheroes anymore. Appreciate it. Got it. At least in this world, it feels like, oh yeah, Superman can exist in this. Zack Snyder's Superman can exist in this world. Not real Superman, but Superman can exist. And Batman, sure. I like they even introduced the idea of Batmite. That was just thrown in there. And then like, Batmite, you're like, oh man, how many people are even going to know about that character?
Yeah.
There's clearly a lot of people who enjoy this. And I think if you're willing to at least try something different and you don't want to be kind of depressed, this is a fun little show. Fun show. I'm curious to see more of it.
Yeah, and when I compared it to The Boys, I didn't mean like it's like just like it, because The Boys is more like said, more cynical. It's a satire on the superhero stuff, and then throws in much social commentary stuff with that with the superhero medium. This show I just
meant like in style.
Yeah, kind of in style, just in terms of I think it's a different change of pace
Yeah,
than
true.
your normal superhero stuff that you see like with the
Hmm.
Marvel movies and maybe even
Yeah.
like some of the DC movies they do, like with Wonder Woman or Aquaman. It's like, okay, I'm kind of
Oh yeah.
tired of all that different shit.
No,
You know what I mean? I
felt like a
think.
Defenders. It felt almost like a Daredevil. We're seeing it on the street level, or like, well, how did the normal people just clean up crazy crap? Like, if they're doing all this big superhero stuff, like, what do normal human beings have to do in order to kind of compete? And you're like, well, you're gonna have to desensitize yourself. You're gonna have to do some really screwed up crap, and unfortunately, kill people that don't deserve it. They don't deserve to die, and but it happens because you don't want your appearance or word to get out, and so you take innocent lives, and that takes a toll. And yeah, they seem closed off, but every character that kind of shows off, there's also like that hint of sadness that you're like, they're just kind of desensitized and really sad. They can't appreciate the small things because they do what no people wants to do.
uh, yeah. Yeah. So me and you both high tune in. Solid.
Yeah,
You gave it a solid tune in.
yeah, I gave a solid tune in, kind of bordering on a high, but I'll give it a solid tune in. It was fun. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, so solid tune in from you, and I think yeah, strong kind of tune in for me, high tune in for me.